Beloved heart, I'm Monica Bermudez. Welcome back to another episode on my podcast. I want to talk about the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, which, in other words, is the divine feminine or the divine masculine, and share some insight about each one and what they mean. And I also want to share my own personal story and journey for these two of the balancing states. So, the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine wisdom or energy of it is in all of us. And it has nothing to do with physical gender. And some may have, a little more than the other. Um, and this has been a common knowledge through ancient times. So, knowing about the knowing this knowledge and this wisdom about the energy of it has been known through Lemuria and Atlantis and all any other ancient civilizations. So this is not new age. This is old age, old school type wisdom that we are resurfacing, reawakening in each and every one of us. So I can see this episode being a form of remembrance and also a reawakening for all of us as well, and those who want to dive in deeper to the ones who already are knowledgeable of it, about it. And so, having the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine in each and every one of us, it's an alchemical process as well of the union of the two. And so a lot of the alchemists would have all these symbolisms and hidden knowledge of information through some of the Dark Age periods, especially because it wasn't a common practice. Like it was a big no-no for anybody who wanted to even talk about such things, or they would be um, killed in some traumatic way. And so they would hide a lot of their information through some of the pictures and images and symbolism as well. And so they would depict a lot of the what looks like an alchemical wedding of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine itself. And they would have this sacred union with one another. And that sacred union is within each and every one of us, all of us. So my personal journey on this is that I, grew up with such an imbalance of these two energies, which I found that in a lot of my clients also had it too. And it's one of those areas that I've, worked with them as well as, I was the first client was myself, working myself. And so, I'm sure that this can also like assist you as well as I share my story too with you. So growing up, I had such an imbalance of the two energies. And so I actually don't, I felt, I didn't really call it the sacred masculine, but it was more of a masculine energy, but it was more toxic. And the toxic masculine energy is more like this competitive, of like too much of the ego. And so that in itself was a very, very out of balance. And so in a way, it was just also pretty toxic. And it was about just giving rather than like receiving. So I mentioned in one of my previous episodes that I had a problem with receiving. It was very challenging for me. And some of this was, having too much of this masculine energy, which was too analytical, too structured. It was, too extreme to that point of, just doing things on my own and not knowing how to ask for help. And so when I, finally went into my really deep awakening through my own divorce, which had, unraveled so many things in my life. And this was another one of those areas where I was looking at this imbalance of the energy of this masculine type energy. And so one of the things that I started to look at was starting to ignite more of the divine feminine energy. And so the divine feminine energy, which, like I said, the sacred feminine energy also is one of the biggest reawakening stages that is occurring right now in the entire planet. And so with that igniting, area within myself, that I really started to work more the divine feminine, which is more of this flowy. It's more of the surrendering and trusting state, and just allowing, the universe to work through you. So it's more of this intuitive side of receiving as well, but also knowing how to give and be nurturing, but having that balance. So to me, the sacred feminine energy is all inclusive, right? All inclusive, all the energies, including the sacred masculine. So it is through the sacred feminine energy that the sacred masculine is pretty much rebirthed and renewed. So, in other words, grabbing the toxic masculine energy, which has been associated to like the dark patriarch energy for so many years, that the sacred feminine has also been cleansing and helping purge a lot of that and rebalance it. And so from that, what is being burst out of that is the sacred masculine energy. So that's pretty much what happened to me. So the more that I was working on this sacred feminine energy within myself, it rebirthed the sacred masculine. And so as, the sacred feminine was resurfacing out of me, there was, still this conflict within myself that I recognized and was fully aware. And so I was observing it, how, the old masculine energy of the patriarch energy was very still trying to be analytical and understand how, this was going to happen in our life. For instance, like when I was launching my business, which was on the spiritual side of doing all this energy work and coming out to public. And then the masculine side would come in and, make all these statements like, I don't know how this is going to look, how this is going to work, and so forth. And so I would observe, the sacred feminine energy just in a very, sweet but very strong manner, uh, be very determined that this would, happen, and to just allow the space and the time for it. And so the more that, that I was observing all of this within myself, of these two energies, I was noticing that out of this sacred feminine, this, all-inclusive type energy, what was starting to resurface was this transmutational alchemical state with the divine masculine, the sacred masculine energy within myself. So pretty much transforming that masculine, that old patriarch dark energy into this very sacred masculine energy. And so what ended up happening was that this union of the two came together into this like sacred matrimonial state within myself. And so there was this compromising and this agreement between the two to work with each other to manifest things in the physical reality, because that union is a manifestation of the one point. Because I always emphasize the triangle as well. And there's a reason why we have so many pyramids built around the world, because our star family also emphasized it too. As they also had a thing in a say with the way certain structures were designed in many ancient civilizations. If you look at ancient Egypt, for example, of the way the pyramids were built, very perfect triangular type shapes, right? So the triangle being 3 points is that you have the two, and the third point is the manifestation state. So the union of the two, the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, is a manifestation point as well. And that is to build, to rebirth new ideas in your life, in your situation, your relationship, or even like your own business, if you're in your own entrepreneurial type, type business. So it's really about that energy. And so this is what I also call the twin flame energy. And so that energy starts within ourselves, and that is the alchemical process. And more specifically, though, where it all really started was in the heart chakra. And so that's why I also emphasize so much about the wholeness of our heart first, because if you're coming out of a relationship and you're still wounded and you've gone, even if it's been just like a few months or a year, and sometimes we don't really clear everything that we think that we've cleared. We may feel that we have, but it's sometimes there is still some of that lingering. And it took me like many, many years to realize a lot of that. And so what happened was that with this union within myself, that it has sparked and reversed, like grown, a lot of my entrepreneurial business. And there's more of this trust and this surrendering for the flowiness of allowing the universe to also do a lot of the work and just trusting where your flow of money is going to come. In other words, so it's just, and the divine masculine energy. So what it does now that it's been, transmuted, what the attributes of this divine masculine energy is more, it has a structure still, right? And but it has, this organized structure, and it keeps the divine feminine protected. So allowing and creating, or just having a space, let's just say, having a space that, building this space for the divine feminine to allow the divine feminine to expand, to grow, to have her space for creativity, have her space for intuition, and, all the messages that are coming from the cosmos, from our own higher guidance. And so I feel like, there is an interchange of energy here with each of these forms of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. So even the sacred masculine can have some of this, areas of being the intuitive one as well. And I feel in having that creativity as well. And I also feel that the divine feminine, the sacred feminine also has a bit of this, sacred masculine energy as well. And being able to create as well, and having this area building as well. So they can, have like a little bit of the yin yang type energy within each one. And so I feel like that's how, but one has more than the other one. So the sacred feminine is much more intuitive, more inclusive. Sacred masculine is more about having the space, building the space, and having this creative space for the sacred feminine to be able to express herself in whatever way that is. So that energy is in all of us. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Okay, it's part of our way of being. And that is the balance in our life that we need to, in order to be able to function in a very healthy way of like interacting with one another, interacting with yourself as well, and also being able to take it easy on yourself. So it's almost like self-nurturing yourself also, and self, you know, care, self-love. So the union of these two creates this very strong, love, like self-love vortex of energy. And so that's what it feels like for me in a constant state. So it's not to say that you won't feel, the things that you do, like as a human. Like, yeah, there's things that still happen in life, right? There's challenges of like, if there's a great loss, or there's some sadness, something that doesn't, that you may end up like losing in that moment. But what's so important about this union is that it's very supportive. So you have like, if you're feeling like angry, for instance, or you're feeling sad, it doesn't last for long. It lasts for like maybe just a few seconds. And so that's where the energy comes in, is that when they're both working together, they come together to be supportive of, what is occurring in that moment. And so there is this, I would say like this sacred support that is for yourself. Because if you're faced with challenges or problems, it doesn't feel as intense as it would be like if they're separated, if these two energies were separated. So it feels like there is always a solution because there always is an infinite amount of solution. And so when they're both in this union state, they have a very creative life force of energy that gives you all the ideas that you can in that moment to be able to solve or provide certain solutions in your life. And so these are, the areas that I emphasize the most for all of us to start and looking and reassessing what areas in yourself do you feel that you have the most? Do you have more of the feminine energy? Do you have more of the masculine energy? Do you feel that you're more in balance? And these are all, questions that you can ask yourself, and just let your higher guidance answer for you in a very honest and truthful way. So there has been, other areas of, like, for instance, the dark feminine energy, which has been, a bit um corrupted through time. Like, there, because we lived in an age of which was more of a patriarch energy, and it was all just very toxic, masculine energy, as we see in a lot of the media. And specifically, I feel like the financial system has been the one that's been the most tainted with this type of energy. So a lot is still, changing on the earth itself. And what's been occurring since the COVID times, that things have accelerated much more, is that the divine feminine energy has been rising a lot more on the earth. And so that's what's causing a lot of what looks like chaos rising. But really, what it's happening is that it's rebalancing and resetting itself to be able to reverse the divine masculine energy. So, creating this union also for Mother Earth, because we're also a part of her. And so, the more that we make ourselves as whole within ourselves, is that we don't have to depend on the external world, and we become our own independent love. So, meaning we get our own answers within ourselves, we receive our own channel. And that's really my intent for everybody to have that feeling and that way that I have, made for myself. And so that is what I most desire. And in intention of, like, the services and the work that I do through my business. And that is, what I always wish for the entire humanity in Earth. And so, yeah, so that's a lot, with Earth itself. She's going through that massive shifting and shuffling of those energies. And she's creating that union herself to reverse this divine masculine energy and that wholeness that will create what, we call the 5D, the ascension. And once, in the 5D, it's going to continue to expand and expand. And 5D is also the expansive of our own consciousness and our own Christ consciousness type energy as well. So that is just going to continue expanding, because we are expansive beings and we receive, from the cosmo energy. And as the more that we receive from the cosmo energy, the more that we are expanding. So that, is very, very important, very powerful. So just to recap how the potency of, these energies, the emphasis of them, having your own alchemical wedding, your own alchemical marriage within yourself. So I wish you a happy alchemical marriage in these areas as you explore more of this. So I do highly encourage and emphasize, just reviewing that in your life and how that is for you. I'm sending you so much love, and I will be connecting with you in another episode of my podcast.